Hey there, it's Carlie with the Expat Focus Podcast. It's another festive themed episode. We're discussing Christmas time in South Korea and Spain with American expat and English teacher Jessie Sweed. We talk about festive activities in the classroom, the perils of the Secret Santa gift, Spain's Three Kings Day, and how Jessie's experience of the holidays in three countries has influenced how he celebrates this time of year with his own family. Oh, and a little footnote. I have a pooping log question in this interview that seemed to stump Jessie. It turns out it's a Catalan Christmas tradition.
You are very festive right now. I love it.
I feel like I've dressed it myself in the room like Christmassy enough for both of us here. So if you haven't caught the podcast on YouTube, search Expat Focus and you can watch as well as listen to this episode. Jessie, you have been an English teacher for the better part of 16 years, and we're going to dive into Christmas traditions where you used to live in South Korea and where you're currently living in Spain. But let's start with your background. So where are you from and what led you initially to South Korea?
Yeah, I'm originally from Pennsylvania, and my journey to South Korea actually started here in Sevilla. I'm in Sevilla in southern Spain right now, and it started with a visit here. I visited my friend who was living and teaching English here, and one day I went with him to see him observe him teaching his classes, and it was one of those things that, it went from, oh, that's nice for him to do, that's really cool that he does that, to holy crap, I could do this. It was like one of those.
Light bulb moment, yeah.
Yeah, like I can do this. That would be great for me to do. At the time in 2006, it was really hard for an American to get a job here in Spain because we weren't part of we're still not, but part of the EU. So there's a lot of extra visa, the schools need to pay. And I had no teaching experience. I had no certificate, right? But in South Korea, we were doing research. You just needed a university degree and to be a native speaker, and you pretty much get an English teaching job anywhere. So I checked both of those categories off. So, and plus I have done martial arts since maybe 12 for most of my life. And that was a Korean martial art. It was Tang Soo Do.
Oh,
so
cool.
I had some familiarity with Korea. And so I, found a recruiter and sent my resume that I had no idea how to write it at the time, but landed a job. I intended to stay for only 1 to 2 years and then come back here to Seville after I get my TEFL and some experience. It ended up turned into 7.
Wow, 7 years in South Korea.
Yeah.
And do you remember your first Christmas there?
I remember being almost underwhelmed by it.
Oh.
Yeah. It was kind of like it was in my first year. So I had been there since August, almost September. So December, I was still pretty new, like 3 months. I was still pretty new. So it's not like I didn't suffer a lot of homesickness. Well, a little bit, I guess, because we didn't have Zoom. We didn't have, Skype wasn't even really a thing. When I had to get those. Do you remember those calling cards?
The SIM card, not the SIM card. It's like the rechargeable credit card looking things. Yeah.
So a credit card, you scratch off the number and then type like a 16-digit number. And then, so I talked with friends and family from back at home with those. And but I don't really remember really feeling incredibly homesick, maybe a little bit, but not enough that I remember. I had a good expat community, those that I worked with. We built up friendships and we were kind of all in the same boat, so we kind of celebrated together.
I did some reading online today and I read that in South Korea, Christmas is not a religious holiday, festive event, but they still do mark Christmas.
Yeah. And that's what I was actually thinking about this interview today. And that's one thing, like the commercialization has really spread all over the world with Christmas, but it's not really a religious thing. It's like a Santa Claus thing. It's a family thing. And it's not even for everybody. like some families will have a tree up, some won't, things like that. Yeah.
How did the Christmas season influence your teaching of English at that time of year?
That's a good question. So that always gives us a lot of fun activities. When I first started, I was teaching kids, right? And you always have so many cool activities, Christmas cards, Christmas songs, the Christmas carols, and the schools, the academies that I taught at a kindergarten and elementary academy. They had some cool things that they set up. So they arranged that we would go to different apartment complexes where the kids lived, and we'd go to doors and do Christmas caroling, and at Halloween we'd go trick-or-treating. They'd set it up with the parents.
Oh, that's so
we did
cute.
some cool stuff. Yeah.
And did you learn any South Korean Christmas traditions like songs, or understand, how they might mark the day?
I think English Christmas carols are more popular there, so they would probably sing like Jingle Bells, but like maybe not really understand it, but that, they would still sing that.
And what about food? I'm guessing they don't roast a turkey in South Korea for Christmas.
No, they don't have that. I don't think it's a really big holiday that like it's a family, like in the United States, it's the biggest international travel day, right? But in South Korea, it's really not. So maybe they would have like some extensive family come, but it wasn't really like that. So I don't think, like, as far as a traditional Christmas meal, I don't really think they had that. They have their own Christmas holidays where they would have family come from all over, but Christmas wasn't one of them that I remember.
And what about gifts?
Again, not a huge thing. It's more of a family thing. And at the academy, so we'd do gift exchanges and things like that for the kids, and then in between the teachers too, we'd do like Secret Santa type things. So they take a lot of like, bits and pieces from the Western culture.
I don't know how you feel about Secret Santa, but I actually get really stressed out about having to organize a Secret Santa gift, especially when they put like a price limit of, say, 10 euros, because it's so low. And you really want to feel like you're giving someone a good gift. And so you feel the pressure to like possibly spend a little more, but no, really, I should stick to 10 euros.
You know what? It's funny you said that, because as soon as when you first asked that question, do I find it stressful? And I was actually thinking about the opposite of you. I was like, well, it's not really stressful if you put like specific rules on it, like a price limit. And
Yeah.
I like that because it takes some pressure away, and sometimes if like, you do it within work, and then sometimes you don't really know the coworker that much, or sometimes, let's face it.
But then you just feel you feel a little lame though, right? Because it's like, okay, mug, candle, chocolate.
You got to get creative then. That's what it means. You got to get creative.
Really, I need some more inspiration.
Yeah, one thing we did at the academy here in Spain, because I worked at an English academy and it was actually owned by an American. And so one thing we did, we set the price limit, but also everyone wrote on, their name, and then on the other side, 3 gifts that they would like.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, that was a good idea. So you're guaranteed to get one of them.
Yeah, definitely. I've actually seen this Secret Santa website where they let you put a gift wish list together for your anonymous giver. And I think that is so helpful.
Yeah,
Because
it really is.
You don't want that, you don't want that moment where you see them opening their gift and they're just not impressed.
Oh, a spoon.
Oh, chocolate in a mug. Thanks so much.
Yeah.
So what did you do amongst your expat colleagues when you were in South Korea? How did you celebrate Christmas together? Orphan Christmas, as they say.
Is that what they say?
Yeah, when I was in London, it was like, how are we going to do our orphan Christmas, because no one was with their family?
Oh, that's hilarious. We had like some Western places, they were run by Westerners, or so they usually had a Christmas dinner. So a bunch of foreigners would come over, and that was all. I always remembered that. And for Thanksgiving too, American Thanksgiving. And I always remembered that was really cool time because it was people that sometimes you saw in the bars or sometimes you saw like here and there, because in Korea we kind of stand out,
Yeah.
you know. And but it was a time when we're all there gathered together. It really was a special time because we aren't, like, as funny as this sounds, we're gathered together here. And I remember those memories fondly.
I had some Muslim friends in Australia who used to say to me that Christmas was the most boring time for them because of the public holidays. And since they didn't celebrate themselves, it was just annoying because like all the shops were closed for a few days. Do things
uh
shut down in South Korea over Christmas?
no, maybe Christmas Day. Yeah, but same here in Spain, and I'm sure we'll get to that. Like Christmas isn't a big deal here either. So maybe Christmas Day, some shops will be shut down, but in South Korea, not for like a week or something. And I can see how that would be annoying because I remember in Korea during Korean, like big Korean traditional holidays, shops would be shut down, and it was kind of annoying to me.
For sure. Well, let's move on to Spain because that's really interesting that you basically made a full circle and you ended up back there with your teaching career.
Yeah, yeah. It's really cool. It's really cool how it happened. It was always in my sights, and it was one of those things like I just I resigned for another year in Korea, and then I changed schools, and then resigned again, and then changed schools, and always kind of like upgrading, and kind of I just built my life, you know. And then it was time, and I eventually came back here.
How did you know it was time?
There was a series of events and circumstances that it was just like, this is it,
Yeah.
you know.
And what about your first Christmas when you moved to Spain? I'm guessing it would have been much more traditional than what you might have been used to than in Asia.
My first Christmas, it was weird because I moved here in November. So I had only been here for a month. So I didn't really know many people. And I had my friend who was still living here, but he wasn't in the city. He was in a different city. So it was, and by that time I had been away for Christmas for enough time that it wasn't really, you know, it sounds like it's sad, like, oh yeah, but I didn't feel it because I felt like, holy crap, I'm in Spain, I'm in Seville, like this. I was like still pinching myself, you know what I mean? So that's what I remember there. And then the following Christmas I had spent with, like, I met who became my wife, who eventually became my ex-wife. But
That's
so
another podcast.
that's another podcast. But so, and then I met her, so then we spent Christmas together and things like that from then on.
And I'm guessing it's much more religious based in Spain.
Yeah,
For
you know
Christmas.
what? Christmas is not a big deal. The 25th of
Really? Again?
almost nothing. So, but what they have, they celebrate. So Christmas Eve is a bigger deal, but really Christmas, it's like if they exchange gifts on Christmas, it's like, you know, socks or chocolate, like something like that, like a Secret Santa thing, like really small. But their big day is January 6th, where they celebrate
Ah,
the three, they call it the three magic kings, Los Reyes Magos. And it's like a symbolism of the three wise men. So what they do, it's the same thing, like the three wise men, they come and leave presents, and they do that, but it's the three wise men, and they celebrate that like gangbusters. But it's really weird because it's January 6th. Their Christmas holiday goes from, like, you know, December 20th, 22nd, somewhere, you know, wherever that lies, to January 7th. So they celebrated on the 6th. The next day is life like normal. So
wow,
it's,
that's not too much time to recover. You'll still have leftovers in the fridge.
yeah, and kids don't have time to like wear their toys out, you know. So it's kind of weird. Like a lot of families are kind of like pushing that back and like dividing it, but traditionally it's January 6th is the big, you know, the big day.
And January 6th, you said there's only small tokenistic kind of presents at Christmas, but January 6th, are they getting the dollhouses, the bikes, the Beyblades, or whatever the
Yeah.
toy of the moment is?
Because imagine like Santa's one person bringing presents, a three
Uh-huh.
king. That's
Oh,
like
you've
pretty
got
cool.
3 kings giving you presents.
Yeah. Three magic kings.
What are their powers?
Well, apparently going around the world dropping presents off. I guess they climb. I've asked that too, if they could fly or they climb up the walls like Spider-Man. You know, I don't know. I didn't want to ask too much because I was always in the presence of kids. So like I didn't want to, you know, I didn't want them to connect the dots because of like Jesse. Well, Jesse asked that.
Jesse, I don't know if I have my country right, but I was reading someone's blog and I'm pretty sure it was Spain and I'm pretty sure it had something to do with a log that pooped out chocolate or something at Christmas time. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Believe it or not, something like that sounds familiar, but I don't know. It might just be
It
so
sounded
unique.
very strange to say. So.
Yeah. Like the only thing I'm thinking about is the Easter Bunny, but that's definitely an American thing and it's really weird. You
No, it
know,
was something, it was about some kind of tradition where you buy a log and take it home at Christmas, like, and the kids get treats from it or something. Clearly, it's not in your part of Spain.
no, I don't remember the present log.
Pooping log. Okay, cool.
Log. I don't remember that.
What is Seville like at Christmas time?
So the 6th, December 6th is when they turn on all the street lights and all the Christmas trees and everything. So you'll go down, it's very festive looking. They have Christmas lights and decorations lighting up the streets. It's a really beautiful city, actually. The color of the lights mixed with the colors of the buildings. It's a really nice, like amber color. It's really cool. But then they have Christmas lights and like snowflakes, reindeer, things like that. And they have big Christmas tree in the center too. And so they celebrate it. I just saw a poster for a movie called Santa versus the Three Kings. So
Ooh.
yeah, that looks like fun. That looks like it would be fun. But yeah, so they're celebrating more. Three Kings is really the big thing. You know, some people do Santa. If they have kids, they'll do Santa, usually not, you know, whatever. But the Three Kings is the big day. But I think it's moving more and more towards like homogenizing both.
The Coca-Cola Santa is infiltrating Spanish tradition
Yeah,
too.
I mean, it really is. You see them more and more, you know, in shops and things. Anyway, you know, that's all marketing, really. I did in South Korea and here, they did like Santa visits. So, especially in South Korea, like you know, sometimes I was the only male teacher, and then sometimes not. But you know, sometimes you'd put on the Santa outfit, and the kids it'd take them like 3 seconds to see that you're, you know, teacher Jesse. But and then sometimes here too at the after school academies, they'd have somebody come in as Santa Claus and, you know, do the wish, the wish and things like that. So the English academies, they really, you know, make effort to integrate culture into the language learning, which is really cool.
Yeah, even in my French classes here in Strasbourg, the teacher will show us a French Christmas song and we'll have to learn how to sing it, which is mildly embarrassing in a room full of adults. And, you know, we have specific Alsatian traditions here that we learn about. And Strasbourg being the capital of Christmas, the Christmas markets are going off right now. What about in Seville? Have you got Christmas markets locally?
Yeah, they have those. They have those. They're really cool. And then they have some rides for kids around there too, some like little mini rides. Yeah.
What can you tell me about what Spanish families eat at Christmas time? Or Three
Yeah.
Kings time, if that's like
Yeah,
the bigger meal.
that's it. Yeah. So Christmas Eve, sometimes we don't even have dinners like with the in-laws, you know. So, but the Three Kings time, it's, you know, a huge spread of like they have the Spanish ham. Have you ever had that?
I've seen it. I'm pescatarian myself, so I'm sure I'm missing out.
Okay. So there's that. There are all sorts of like different kinds of like meat. It's very meat centered. right? So different types of meats and porks and chicken and then vegetables. So it's just like a big spread. So there's not really that one central focus. Like ours is ham. You mentioned turkey. That's more Thanksgiving for us.
Right.
So, but there's not that centerpiece here, but it's just a ton of food. It's a lot. It's a lot. And then some to take home and some to stay for, leftovers too. They have that too, like just leftovers. So normally, the night before the Three Kings would be the main dinner, and that would be that giant spread. And then with kids, we have the kids there. And so the Three Kings would come the night before on the 5th to leave like one present each. So like you'd set it up, somebody would leave and then knock on the door. What's that? Or like pretend someone knocked on the door, like the Three Kings came. And then they'd like come and open up one of their presents. That's like the eve before. And then that's where we have the big dinner. And then usually in our case, then the 6th, we'd go over for like other presents openings. And then our lunch would be the leftovers from the dinner before.
How much American tradition do you think you've brought to your Spanish family Christmas?
No. Like my in-law family that I had? None. No. They were very Spanish. But like as far as our family, like our family, it's really cool because our kids get like 2 kind of big celebrations. So my family back at home, we weren't big on like presents. We weren't big on, I loved Christmas time, but I always say like I loved December 1st through the 24th. The 25th to me was always kind of like anticlimactic. It's like you wake up with the excitement and then you open presents and then it's almost like dead. Like then we're waiting to go to the grandmother's house for dinner or something like that. And then it's like a normal, what would be Sunday. But the whole Christmas time. So what we do is I usually took care, well, not usually took care, I take care of Christmas. And so I get my tradition and what I kind of think Christmas, what I think would be the best Christmas for the kids, and then their mother takes care of like the Three Kings. So they do it that way. So it's really cool. So in my case, it's like, I usually do like one main present and then some like little things. And because to me, less is more. And I think I get that a lot from my mom. Like she's not very like, when I say very, like not at all like materialistic, like gift giving. She's always an awkward receiver. And unless it's a very sentimental thing or has a story. And I'm kind of like the same way. So it's like
you're instilling that in your kids.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's funny to see them each, like how they react to it. I can tell my daughter's the same way. And like, it's like less is more to me. Like one big present will say a lot that is like meaningful, says a lot more than like 50 really cool presents because they're cool, because they're, shiny or whatever. You know what I mean?
I kind of secretly, openly wish my family was like that because growing up, we didn't have a lot of money, but for us, it was all about quantity. So even if it was socks or marbles or like a small thing, it was about how many things you got to unwrap on Christmas Day, which is great. And, my parents, even in hard years, made our Christmases really special with that approach. But now as adults in my family, it's still about presence and quantity. So I'm at the age now where I would love it if my family just gave up on giving each other gifts and focused on the grandkids only. But instead, every year we still are kind of like this silent expectation that every adult still gives and receives gifts, even if they're not really high value. It's about how much you get to unwrap on Christmas Day. It's exhausting, can I just say?
Yeah, that's kind of how my in-laws are. Yeah. And I'm always like, that's way too much.
I feel like we've just created a rod for our own backs because do you know how much I post to Australia or organize to get delivered? Just to make sure everyone's got something physical that they can get into.
and then trying to make sure everyone has the same amount and
value, and is
yeah,
it, yeah.
and number of things, like, yeah, but they only have 3 things and they have 5, and it's like, yeah. So
Oh,
it's
I was totally the kid who would, look at my Santa sack of presents and count how many things I had and glance over at my sisters just to double check that we were even. It was all
yeah,
about, always about making sure we had the same,
the same. Yeah, yeah,
Mm.
yeah. So it's really cool because like they're more that way, I'm more that way, but it's cool because Christmas is my day, like that, and then like the Three Kings is their day, and it's kind of cool, and that's through like the separation. It's cool too because
Yeah.
they're spending it with me, and then they spend their day with them. I have no problems. Then she has no problems. We have a really peaceful and respectful separation too. So it's great. It works perfectly.
And do you put up a Christmas tree for the kids?
Yeah, Christmas tree. We do a Christmas tree. You got to do even they do Christmas trees here. They put up Christmas trees here.
Coming from Australia, where Christmas is in summer and
Yeah,
it's less common to have a live Christmas tree, like plastic trees are pretty much the norm for most people.
I'd imagine.
It is so special to me to be in France, and every year, like when it gets nice and chilly, go to the guys selling the trees and pick out a tree and just smell that fresh
Mm.
pine smell. I know it's not the most environmental way to go, but it's so cool to have a live Christmas tree
It
and
could
in
be
the
argued
right
that it's more
season,
environmental friendly. It could be argued that it's more
It's
environmentally
true.
friendly to have a live tree.
Well, I've read about these businesses. Well, is it really alive anymore when you've cut it from the
Right.
base?
An organic tree.
Organic, that's the word. And what about wreaths? Because here in Strasbourg, we also have the Christmas wreaths with the candles.
So we did the paper chains of like 25 days. And this was when I was in school. I've started doing it here too with my kids.
I
But
love these
we,
Christmas cultural comparisons because we're learning new things.
yeah, totally. So actually, I didn't do it this year. I should have. But yeah, we'd create like Christmas chains, and then every day you rip one off, but they're paper chains.
It sounds like an advent calendar, but of a chain variety.
Yeah, maybe. So it's like a countdown to Christmas. So what I'd do, I'd hang it up, and then my daughter's really artistic, so I'd be like, draw Santa Claus or draw Rudolph or draw something of Christmas. And then she'd put that on the top, and then hang the chain down, and then every day we would rip one off.
And what do you do anything with the chain, or is it just to get closer and closer to Christmas?
We make a ceremony and pray to the
Possibly not.
no, no.
Jesse, I'm curious to know if your experience of different holiday traditions in different countries has made you reflect much about how you celebrate these traditions and what it has. We talked a little bit about how it's influenced how you celebrate the season with your kids. But have you really kind of taken anything from your experiences in South Korea and the United States that, you really inject into your festive season in Spain?
That's interesting. So not really. I think the biggest thing is, which I guess going back to your first question about what my memory was about Christmas in South Korea, it was kind of nice to escape the American commercialism, to be honest. Like that's something that is getting out of control a little bit. And it was nice to separate from that and not have that pressure of buying presents. Because if you're not there, like you know, and
It's easier
so
to opt out, right?
it's easier to opt out. And I'd send presents in like March just because I wouldn't get around to mailing it or something like that. And which is cool because then they'd get and my family loved it. It'd be a surprise in March, like Christmas presents in March. So that's cool. So it's nice to be out of that, but even so, you're not out of it because they have commercialism here, and it's a commercial holiday here. But there's less pressure, I feel. Well, there was less pressure. Now that we have a family, then there's pressure again. But it's like you dictate that pressure. right? So like I said, I got my kids like my daughter a bike. It was a secondhand bike, and it's really cool because there's a decal with her name on it. We put a decal of her name on it. And my son some rollerblades. He's 5, and it's something he's wanted for a while. So I'm like, oh, that's perfect, you know. So I guess I didn't really take anything. It's just you can kind of dictate your own Christmas terms.
Have your kids experienced Christmas back in the United States?
No, I'm looking at next year. I'm hoping next year they will get to see it. Although my family moved from Pennsylvania to Alabama. So
Okay.
it doesn't even get cold down there. So they won't even experience a white Christmas there. So I don't know if we're actually going to go back to the United States for Christmas. It depends. I don't know. That's a year away. But if not, then we're definitely going to go someplace like in the Sierra Nevada region where they can experience a white Christmas.
And finally, what is on the agenda for Christmas in your household?
It's funny you say that because I was just thinking about that yesterday, talking about whether I would have them over and we'd do it here or take them to like a place out in the mountains or a place outside of the city and do it there. There would be a little more logistic problems, like I'd have to take the stuff there, and then if we stay in like a house or something, find a place to hide them and then do all that. But long story short, I don't know what I'm doing yet.
It's nothing like a last minute plan.
I know, right? I know. So that's the best I have. I don't know what we're doing yet. Awesome.
Jesse, thank you so much for coming on the Expat Focus podcast to talk festive traditions. It has been a very fun chat.
It has been. Thank you for inviting me. This was awesome.
And Merry Christmas.
And Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays with whatever tradition you celebrate.
Happy holidays, everyone. That's it for this episode. We'll be back in the new year with more interviews with expats from all over the world. If you like what we do, please subscribe or follow us however you like to listen to the show. And we love hearing from you. You can drop us a message on social media anytime. We are Expat Focus. I'll catch you next time.